My name is Napoleon Hill, and what I'm about to tell you, if you let it in, will change the course of your life forever. You see, over 25 years of my life were spent uncovering one simple truth. Why do some men rise while others fall? Why does one man die broke while another builds an empire from nothing but a dream? This question consumed me. It burned in my mind day and night. I didn't want theories. I wanted facts. I wanted real answers from real men who had achieved real success. So I made a decision. I would dedicate my life to studying the greatest minds of our time. I would walk beside them, work with them, listen to them, observe them. Not just their victories, but their struggles, their methods, their beliefs. I studied over 500 of the most powerful, most successful men in America. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, Theodore Roosevelt, Alexander Graham Bell. And I didn't just read about them. I learned from them, sat with them, questioned them, took notes, recorded details, obsessed over the tiny things they did that the average man ignored. And what I discovered changed me. Every one of them had something in common. Not wealth, not genius, not education, but desire. A burning, all-consuming desire that lit them up from the inside. A belief so powerful, so relentless, that the world had no choice but to move out of their way. Now, I didn't learn this from textbooks or lectures. I learned it from watching it happen, again and again, with my own eyes. And if you'll stay with me for a little while, I'll show you how this force, this burning desire, can pull you out of failure, out of poverty, and lead you directly to the riches you've only imagined up to now. I'll tell you a story, one that lives forever in my mind. It's the story of a man named Edwin C. Barnes. He wasn't famous when I met him. He had no special talents, no rich parents, no formal education to speak of. What he had was a decision. The first time I heard of Barnes was from none other than Thomas Edison himself. And when I finally met the man in person, years later, I understood exactly why Edison remembered him. Now listen closely, because what Barnes did is exactly what you must do if you truly want to win in this life. When Edwin C. Barnes first made up his mind that he was going to work with Thomas Edison, he wasn't in a position to do so. Not financially, not socially, not professionally. He had nothing except the fire in his soul that screamed, "I will do this." He didn't wait until it was convenient. He didn't wait until he had a polished resume or a pile of money. He didn't wait for permission. He simply decided. That's where all success begins, with a decision so definite, so clear that no obstacle can stand against it. Now understand this, Barnes didn't say, "I want to work for Edison." That wasn't the dream. He said, "I'm going to go into business with Edison." There's a world of difference between the man who hopes and the man who decides. Barnes looked at Edison not as an employer, but as a future partner. That might sound outrageous to most people, but outrageous dreams are the only kind that ever come true. He traveled by freight train, penniless, to Orange, New Jersey. He stepped off with dust on his coat, hunger in his belly, and steel in his heart. I imagine that when he walked into Edison's office, his clothes told one story, but his eyes told another. I've known Edison personally. I can tell you, he wasn't easily impressed by appearances, but he was always alert to the presence of real determination. And that's what Barnes walked in with. A look in his eyes that said, "I'm not going home. Not until I get what I came for." So Edison gave him a chance. Not a partnership, no. A small job, menial, forgettable to most. But not to Barnes. He didn't care what work he was given. He didn't care how low he had to start. In his mind, every task, no matter how small, was a step toward his dream.
And that dream never left him. Not for a moment. That is the power of definite desire. See, most people dabble. They try something for a while, and if it gets hard, they give up. They keep looking for the easy way, the fast win, the comfortable route. But success doesn't belong to dabblers. It belongs to the obsessed. For 5 long years, Barnes showed up day after day. No promotions, no praise, no clear sign that his plan was working. To everyone else, he was just a face in the crowd. But to himself, he was Edison's partner from the moment he walked through the door. And because he believed it so completely, eventually life caught up with his belief. One day, an opportunity appeared. Edison had developed a new invention, a dictating machine, and none of his top salesmen wanted anything to do with it. They couldn't see its value. They didn't believe it would sell. But Barnes? He didn't hesitate. He saw his moment. He stepped forward and said, "Let me have it. I'll make it work." That was his opening, and he owned it. He threw himself into that opportunity with the same burning desire that brought him to Edison in the first place. He studied it, sold it, mastered it. And when the dust settled, the machine that no one wanted to touch became a success story. And Barnes? He earned the title he had carried in his mind all along, business partner to Thomas Edison. Now you might say, well, he got lucky. But you'd be wrong. That wasn't luck. That was cause and effect. He caused it with his belief. He caused it with his discipline. He caused it with 5 years of silent preparation and 0 excuses. He made one decision and stuck with it until the world finally gave him what he already knew was his. Let me tell you something I've seen over and over in my life. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack commitment. They don't burn their bridges. They always keep a way out. And when things get hard, because they retreat. But the men I've studied, the ones who rise, the ones who create empires, leave their mark on history, and build fortunes from dust, they have one thing in common. They burn the ships. There's no going back. They have to win or perish. Barnes didn't say, "I'll try for a while, and if it doesn't work, I'll get a regular job." He said, "I'll do anything. I'll sweep floors. I'll run errands. But I will end up where I belong, next to Edison." You want to build wealth? Real wealth? Then learn from that. You must want what you want so badly that nothing else in your life matters more, not comfort, not pride, not approval, not guarantees. You must be willing to risk being misunderstood, being laughed at, even being broke for a while. That's the price. And the truth is, most people aren't willing to pay it. But those who are they discover a version of themselves they didn't even know existed. A stronger self, a higher self, a self that doesn't take no for an answer. That's where the real wealth is born, not in your bank account, but in your mind. And here's the part most people miss. Barnes didn't have a backup plan. He didn't carry the mindset of if it works. He lived in the world of when it works. That certainty is everything. You'll see the results when you first see them in your mind. That's where every fortune begins. Before a man can become rich in dollars, he must become rich in belief. Let me give you a truth that will never fail you. Every fortune, every single one, starts the same way. It begins in the mind of someone who's tired of living the same story, someone who's ready to burn the old script, to see a new reality before anyone else does. That's how wealth is born, not in the hands, but in the vision. Now you may be wondering, how do I take a burning desire and turn it into money, into success, into something real? I'll tell you how. I spent years asking the same question, and after studying the richest men of our generation, I found the answer. It comes down to 6 steps. That's it. 6 steps that have built empires, made millionaires, and turned failure into fortune. I didn't invent these steps. I simply uncovered them. And every successful man I ever interviewed followed them, some knowingly, others by instinct. Here they are. Don't just listen, write them down. These are the exact steps that transmute desire into wealth. First, decide exactly how much money you want. Don't say, I want to be rich. That's vague. The subconscious mind doesn't move until your instructions are clear. Say, I want to earn $100,000 in the next 12 months. Say it with precision. The mind thrives on specifics. Second, decide what you will give in return. Nothing in life is free, not even success. You must be willing to trade time, service, creativity, value. You cannot receive without offering. You can't get something for nothing. That's not how the universe works. Third, set a date. Plant a flag on your calendar. If you leave the timeline open, you're not making a decision, you're making a wish. Say, by July 1st of next year, I will possess this amount. Fourth, create a plan. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it must exist. Begin at once. Don't wait for everything to line up. Don't wait to feel ready. Start with what you have, where you are, and make it better as you go. Fifth, write a clear, concise statement, one paragraph. Include the amount of money, the date by which you'll have it, what you will give in return, and the plan you will follow. Sixth, read that statement twice a day. Once in the morning, right when you wake up. Once at night, just before you sleep. But here's the key. As you read it, see it. Feel it. Imagine the money already in your hands. The car you drive. The home you live in. The peace, the confidence, the freedom. When you do this long enough, consistently enough, your subconscious will begin to believe it. And once that belief takes root, the world around you will bend to match the world within you. I know some of you may think this sounds unrealistic, too simple, too abstract. But let me remind you, these are not just ideas. These are principles that made Andrew Carnegie one of the richest men who ever lived. They were studied and approved by none other than Thomas Edison himself. They've built industries, transformed families, and changed generations. Don't let their simplicity fool you. Simplicity is where the greatest power lies. Now let me be even clearer. These steps do not require you to work yourself to death. They don't demand a PhD or a massive bank account. They require only two things: desire and belief. If you have those two, you can start right now. And if you don't have them yet, good news, you can build them. You do it by training your mind to dwell in possibility, not limitation. To look at your current bank account and say, this is not permanent. This is not my final chapter. This is temporary, and I am rising. Because you'll never see riches in your life until you see them in your imagination. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Only those who become money conscious ever accumulate real wealth. Now, what do I mean by money conscious? I mean, you train your mind to be so saturated with the image of your success that you walk through life already feeling like a millionaire, even if you're broke today. You see opportunity. You attract it. You talk different. You move different. You think like someone who already has what they want. And slowly, your outer world begins to match your inner world. That's how the subconscious works. That's how wealth becomes inevitable. And I want to tell you this. Don't be afraid to dream big. This world needs your dream. It's starving for leaders who see more than what's in front of them. You think dreams are foolish? Then let me remind you. Henry Ford dreamed of a car that could be built so cheaply the common man could afford it, and people laughed until he built it. The Wright brothers dreamed of flying like birds, and people called them mad until they took flight. Edison dreamed of a bulb that could hold electricity, and he failed 10,000 times until the world lit up. You know, sometimes people say to me, "Napoleon, you make it sound so easy." But what about pain? What about failure? What about when the dream feels far away? And I always tell them this: every man or woman who ever succeeded in this life has passed through the fire. They've been tested. They've been knocked down. Not once, not twice. Over and over again. What made them different wasn't that they avoided failure. It was that they transformed it. They turned defeat into fuel. They turned loss into leverage. They turned setbacks into setups. You don't believe me? Then let me show you. Take Abraham Lincoln. He lost 8 elections, failed in business twice, had a nervous breakdown, but he held on to his dream of uniting this country. He believed when no one else believed, and he changed the world not because he never fell, but because he never stayed down. Helen Keller, deaf, blind, mute. Most people would have called her condition hopeless, but not her, not her teacher, not her soul. That woman wrote books, traveled the world, gave speeches, and proved that no condition is too great for the human spirit. She didn't see the world with her eyes. She saw it with her vision. Marconi, they put him in a psychiatric hospital when he said he could send messages through the air. His friends thought he was insane. But you know what happened next? He invented radio and changed how the entire world communicates. Let me say it again. The world called him crazy until the world started using his idea. Sound familiar? They always laugh at the dreamers until they need the dream. You see, I've come to believe that defeat is a kind of gift. It strips away the noise. It shows you what you're made of. It introduces you to the strongest part of yourself, your other self, the one you didn't even know was there. You only meet that self when the pressure builds, when the bills pile up, when the world says no, when your back is to the wall and quitting looks easy. That's when you decide who you are. I've interviewed men who built steel empires, railroads, communication giants. And I'm telling you the truth, they all faced moments when they wanted to give up. But instead, they dug in. They reached deeper. And that's when they found gold, not just in the ground, but in themselves. You want to win? Then let me be direct with you. You don't need permission. You don't need guarantees. You don't need perfect timing, or a degree, or a famous name. You need desire. You need vision. You need action. And you need to stop negotiating with failure. Because the truth is, every failure carries with it the seed of an equivalent success, but only if you stay long enough to see it bloom. Most people plant the seed, but they don't water it. They get impatient. They want results tomorrow. They want riches without roots. But wealth doesn't work that way. Growth doesn't work that way. You don't get to harvest the crop if you don't first break the soil. Let me ask you a question. How many inventions, how many books, how many businesses never happened because someone gave up right before the breakthrough? I'll tell you millions. And the saddest part? Most of those people weren't missing talent. They weren't missing resources. They were just missing faith in themselves, in their vision, in the invisible forces that shape our lives. Now, I don't care where you are right now. I don't care if your bank account is empty, if your friends have written you off, if your family doesn't believe in you. None of that defines your future. What defines your future is this. What are you willing to believe about yourself starting right now? Because I promise you, the world has changed. The rules of wealth have changed. The gatekeepers are gone. The old systems have cracked. And for the first time in history, the doors are wide open for anyone with a powerful idea and the courage to act on it. That means you. You don't have to be born rich. You don't have to look a certain way or come from a certain place. You just need to decide. And once you do, once you light that fire, everything begins to move. Ideas start flowing. People start showing up. Opportunities start appearing. Why? Because life rewards the committed. The man who knows where he's going walks differently, talks differently, commands attention. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to prove anything. His certainty does the talking for him. That's what you're building here. Not just a strategy, but an identity. A new way of showing up in the world. Let me remind you again. Every great movement, every invention, every business, every revolution started with one man or woman who was crazy enough to believe. Christopher Columbus believed there was a new world and found it. Thomas Edison believed we could capture light, and he did. The Wright brothers believed we could fly, and now you can cross the ocean in 6 hours. Belief isn't fluff. Belief is fuel, but it must be backed by definiteness of purpose and persistent action. If all you do is dream, you'll stay in bed. If all you do is plan, you'll stay in your head. But if you decide, and if you act, and if you refuse to quit, then friend, I'll see you at the top. Because I've seen it too many times. People who had nothing become everything. People who were laughed at become legends. People who were broken become billionaires. Not because the world gave them a chance, but because they took one. Let me speak plainly now. Because maybe you've tried before. Maybe you've read books, listened to speeches, watched videos, made promises to yourself, and still found yourself stuck, still broke, still confused, still doubting. I've been there too, and I want to tell you something that no one told me at the beginning. You will be tested, not once, not twice, but again and again. You'll be tested by people who don't believe in you, by plans that don't work the first time, by pain that cuts deep, by the voice in your head that whispers, maybe I'm not meant for this. But let me ask you, what if your greatest pain is the very thing that will unlock your purpose? What if your heartbreak, your failure, your rejection, what if all of that wasn't happening to you, but for you? Let me show you what I mean. Charles Dickens, one of the greatest authors in history, started his life pasting labels on blacking pots in a rat-infested factory. His heart was broken. He was abandoned by the very people who were supposed to protect him. And it was that pain that gave birth to David Copperfield, and later to stories that touched millions. Beethoven wrote some of the most powerful music the world has ever heard after he went deaf. He couldn't hear his own compositions, but he could feel them. And so can you. Booker T. Washington was born a slave. He had nothing, but he had tolerance. He had vision. And above all, he was a dreamer. His name is remembered because he chose to rise. Robert Burns, the poet, was an illiterate farm boy. He lived poor, died poor, but what he gave the world through imagination was priceless. Milton was blind. O. Henry was in prison. John Bunyan wrote Pilgrim's Progress behind bars. Edison was fired from his job. Ford was bankrupt twice. But every one of them, every single one, found the courage to turn inward, to reach deeper, to use their pain as material for their purpose. So I say to you, don't run from your suffering. Don't cover your wounds. Don't numb your emotions. Instead, transmute them. That's the word I use, transmutation. It means taking the strongest force inside you and redirecting it. That heartbreak you feel, that hunger, that rage, that grief, turn it into imagination. Turn it into a dream. Then turn that dream into action. You see, the greatest mistake people make is thinking they must wait until they feel good to start creating. That's not true. Some of the greatest visions in history were born in the darkest of prisons, in the loneliest of rooms, in the most painful silence. The man who learns to create in spite of pain is unstoppable. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need perfect timing. He just moves forward, because forward is the only direction. That still makes sense. Now maybe you've failed. Maybe you've let others down. Maybe you've let yourself down. That's okay, because here's the truth no one wants to admit. All who succeed in life, every single one, get off to a bad start. They fail. They fall. They lose things they thought they could never live without. But if you stay in the fire long enough, you'll find something you didn't know you had. I call it your other self. It's the part of you that only wakes up when everything else falls apart. It's the part of you that says, "This is not the end. I was built for this." And when you meet that self, you stop looking for permission. You stop waiting for signs. You stop playing small. You start moving like a man or woman who knows what they came here to do. So if you've been crushed, if you've been disappointed, if you've cried yourself to sleep good, that means you're alive. That means you care. That means you've got the raw material necessary to create something magnificent. You are not defeated unless you accept defeat as reality. I want you to remember this. The oak tree sleeps inside the acorn. The eagle waits inside the egg. And inside you right now is something even greater, waiting to rise. You don't need to see the full path. You don't need every answer. You just need to begin. Start where you are. Use what you have. And walk toward the vision that refuses to leave you. Now, before I let you go, let me leave you with this. Every great success begins with a decision, a single moment where you say, "Enough. Enough of waiting. Enough of doubting. Enough of fearing failure." You were not born to live small. You were born to conquer, to create, to leave your mark on this world. The universe is waiting for you to step forward, waiting for you to claim your place at the table. But here's the secret. No one is going to hand it to you. No one owes you success. You have to earn it with your heart, your mind, your sweat, and your unrelenting desire. It won't be easy, but nothing worth having ever is. Remember the story of Edwin Barnes? He didn't walk into Edison's office hoping for a job. He walked in declaring he was going to be a partner, and he burned every bridge behind him so there was no turning back. That's the mindset you must have. Burn your ships. Cut your ties to old fears. Declare to yourself and to the world that you will not quit until you have what you came for. Because that burning desire, that fierce determination, that's the starting point of all achievement. You have the same power inside you that created cities, built empires, changed the course of history. But it's up to you to unlock it. So here's what I want you to do right now. Write down your goal. Make it specific. Make it real. Write what you're willing to give in return. Set a date when you will have it. Make your plan. Read it every day. Feel it like it's already yours. And then, take your first step right now. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for confidence. Because your dreams don't work unless you do. You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. Your future is waiting, but it can't wait forever. Make your desire so strong, so powerful, so unshakable that nothing in this world can stop you. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dream. And watch the impossible become your reality. You've got this. I believe in you. Now go. Make your mark.